Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Let me take you to the moment the room fell silent. Not for a toast, not for applause, but because I stood up and left without a word, and no one even noticed, not even my wife. Let's begin. The champagne glass I held had warmed to my skin, untouched for over an hour. Her laughter echoed from across the room, high, sharp, polished, like it was rehearsed for the crowd surrounding her. Not once had her eyes found me. Not once had she even glanced my way. Earlier that evening, she whispered, "Don't embarrass me tonight." That was the only thing she said to me the entire drive there. Now she was busy dazzling everyone at her boss's party like she was running for office. Hands on arms, smiles a little too wide, a laugh that belonged to someone I didn't know anymore. I stood in the corner, surrounded by fake plants and fake people, and tried to shrink into the wall. It wasn't that I didn't know anyone. It was that no one knew I was there. Even she seemed to forget. Then it happened. Her boss, a man I had never met, never even heard of, walked up to her. She touched his chest when she laughed. Not just lightly, deliberately. She glanced over her shoulder and spotted me. And then she turned her back. I waited 30 more seconds, just in case. In case she remembered I existed. She didn't. I placed the champagne on the windowsill, slipped quietly between groups of networking professionals, past a man talking about stocks and a woman bragging about someone else's vacation. No one said a word to me. I don't even think they noticed I was moving. When I stepped out into the cold, it felt like oxygen finally hit my lungs. I didn't slam a door. I didn't call a cab. I just walked. Past cars I couldn't afford, past voices I didn't recognize, past the version of myself I had ignored for too long. It wasn't until I reached the parking lot that my phone buzzed. One message. No name. Please come back. Too late. She remembered me 5 minutes after pretending I never existed. But the most painful part? A part of me still wanted to answer. I didn't open the message right away. I just stared at the notification glowing against the darkness of my screen. Please come back. It sat there like a pebble in my shoe, impossible to ignore, begging to be acknowledged. I stood outside her boss's house, the bitter air biting through my sleeves, trying to decide whether that message meant anything, or if it was just panic that her perfect image cracked when I left. I paced the sidewalk, avoiding the valet's stare. Couldn't go home, couldn't go back in. So I stood there in that weird in-between space where men like me always end up. Not quite invited, not quite gone. I finally unlocked the screen and reread her words. No apology. No explanation. Just desperation in disguise. The message didn't match the woman I saw 15 minutes earlier. The one who laughed like I was a ghost. Who leaned into another man's space like she forgot I existed. Maybe she hadn't forgotten. Maybe she just didn't care until someone else noticed I was gone. I didn't reply. Couldn't. Instead, I sat in the driver's seat, gripped the wheel, and stared at the door like it might swing open and reveal some kind of clarity. But she didn't come out. She stayed inside, in her world of polished smiles and curated charm. I imagined her holding her phone, expecting me to crawl back like I always did. She knew me too well. Knew I'd sit there debating my self-worth, wondering if I was overreacting. Again. 20 minutes passed. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, "Lowell, please. Let's just talk." That word, just, infuriated me. It always did. Like I was being unreasonable for bleeding after being cut. Like I was supposed to reset the moment she felt a tremor of consequence. I started the car. The engine coughed to life, and I hesitated with my foot on the brake. One push and I'd be gone. But instead I just sat there, like an idiot, like a man waiting to be chosen in a room where no one was looking for him. I didn't drive off. Not yet, because something in me needed to know. What exactly was she so desperate to talk about? When her name lit up my screen again, I answered, not because I was ready, but because I was tired of sitting in limbo. Her voice came through the speaker soft, calm, like we were having a casual check-in. "Lowell, hey, are you okay?" That question hit me sideways. I had been standing like a discarded jacket for 2 hours, and she was asking me if I was okay? I wanted to scream, but all I said was, "You ignored me the entire night." She sighed like I was the difficult one. "You're overthinking again. It was just a party. I was networking." That word, networking, has become a catch-all excuse for emotional distance. You can flirt, brush shoulders, lean in too close, pretend your husband's invisible, and it's all justified if it's in the name of career advancement. But I pushed back. "You didn't introduce me to a single person. You laughed like I wasn't even there." She paused, and that silence screamed louder than her voice ever could. "I didn't mean to make you feel that way," she finally muttered, careful with the phrasing. "Not sorry. Just that she didn't mean to." And then she pivoted. "Look, it's been a stressful week. My boss was watching, and I couldn't just cling to you all night." I bit down on every instinct telling me to challenge that. Instead, I said the quiet thing. "Did you forget I was your husband?" There was a crackle of movement, like she stood up suddenly or paced the room. "Lowell, you always do this. One thing goes wrong and you spiral. Why can't you just be normal about it?" That hit harder than it should have. I've always been the quiet one, the fixer, the apologizer. But I was starting to wonder, how many things had I let slide because I was too afraid of losing someone who'd already left in all but body? "I'm driving home," I finally said. Her voice sharpened. "Can you at least wait for me? I'll leave in 20 minutes. But I didn't say yes. I didn't say no either. I just hung up. For the first time in years, I realized something chilling. She only remembers me when I leave. I left the porch light on. Not because I was waiting for her, but because I didn't want to admit I was. I sat on the couch in the dark, scrolling through nothing, hearing the echo of my own breathing like it belonged to someone else. Every minute that passed after midnight felt like proof she wasn't coming. Or worse, that she was staying somewhere else. But then, just after 12:40 a.m., headlights swept across the living room wall. My chest tightened. I stayed seated. I heard the front door open gently, followed by careful footsteps and the sound of heels clicking against the hardwood. She entered like a stranger in her own home. Quiet, cautious, maybe even guilty. I expected her to speak first. She didn't. Then came something I didn't expect at all. A second set of footsteps. I stood up like I'd been slapped. There, in the dim light of the hallway, stood Callie. And behind her, a man. Not her boss. Someone younger, taller, dressed down, like he had no reason to impress anyone. She looked startled to see me, as if I was the one intruding. "Lowell," she said, too quickly. "This is Morgan. He's just giving me a ride home. That's it." Morgan barely looked at me. He gave a lazy nod and stayed in the entryway like he owned none of the awkwardness clinging to the air. I stared at her. Her lipstick was smudged. Her jacket was off her shoulders. I didn't know what to say first, so I said something stupid. "You said 20 minutes. Callie stepped forward, brushing past Morgan as if she wanted to block my view. "He lives nearby. It wasn't a big deal. Can we not make this a thing tonight?" But it was a thing. It was a very specific, very quiet kind of betrayal. The kind where no one yells, but everything fractures. "I'm going to bed," she said, her voice sharp with finality. "It's late." She turned around and walked upstairs. Morgan watched her go, then glanced at me with something close to pity before slipping out the door. I stood alone again, this time in my own house, wondering what kind of marriage you have when your wife brings home strangers and asks you not to make it a thing. And the worst part? I still wanted to believe her. Couldn't sleep that night. I lay there with my eyes open, listening to the faint hum of the ceiling fan and the occasional creak of floorboards upstairs. Her side of the bed remained untouched. She never came down. She never explained. And I never stopped replaying it. Morgan's face, his casual nod, his familiarity with my wife's silence. By morning, I had convinced myself to let it go. But my hands betrayed me. They were already typing his name into every platform I could think of. Social media, LinkedIn, even reverse image searches on a blurry photo I managed to find from Callie's team event a few months ago. There he was, in the background, standing next to her, smiling like he belonged there. His name wasn't Morgan. It was Clay Morgan, junior consultant at her firm. Same firm where she insisted she had no work friends. Same guy who, according to a company blog post, had joined 6 months ago and bonded quickly with the marketing lead team. Callie was on that team. My stomach twisted when I found a photo of them at a holiday lunch. Her hand rested lightly on his shoulder, casual to the outside eye. But I knew her touch, and I knew she didn't give it away easily. Not unless she meant it. That night at dinner, I brought it up carefully. So, that guy, Morgan, he's new at your firm? She blinked. Why are you still on that? Her tone was ice. He gave me a ride. That's it. I didn't drop it. You know what's funny? I looked him up. His name is Clay Morgan. You work directly with him. She froze for a half second, then forced a laugh. Oh, that's what this is. You went full private investigator. She said it like a joke, but her voice trembled just enough to notice. Jesus, Lowell. This is why I don't tell you things. You always overreact. No, I said quietly. You just underexplain. She stood up and took her plate to the sink, her back to me like always. You're paranoid and pathetic. He dropped me off. You're making something out of nothing. But something had changed. I saw the shift in her eyes. The way guilt slipped behind sarcasm like it had practiced the move 100 times. And in that moment I knew. She wasn't surprised I found out. She was surprised I dared to look. It started with a slip. A careless moment in a house full of silence. Callie left her laptop open on the kitchen counter while she showered, and her phone buzzed in sync across the table. Normally, I wouldn't even glance. I hated the idea of spying. But something about the name lighting up the screen froze me in place. Clay. That was it. No last name. Just Clay. The message preview was short. So, is he still clueless? Smirking face, that one sentence turned my stomach. I told myself not to look. That I was better than this. But I wasn't. Not anymore. I stepped over, unlocked the phone. No passcode change. I found the thread. Their chat history was casual, friendly, until it wasn't. The shift was gradual but undeniable. A teasing tone, inside jokes, voice notes, photos, the kind you send when you forget to fear being caught. One message stood out. A week before the party. Don't worry. He'll just stand in the corner like always. You won't even notice him. That line knocked the breath out of me. It wasn't just dismissive, it was strategic. Like I had been factored into their plans and accounted for like a background prop. Nothing more than a wallpaper in my own marriage. Another message read, after this weekend, I'm done pretending. Let's just see how he reacts. Pretending. That word hung in the air like smoke from a fire I didn't even know was burning. I backed away from the phone like it had physically struck me. My hands were shaking. I sat down, hard, and stared at the floor. The room looked the same, but I wasn't in it anymore. Not really. I was somewhere else, years back, remembering every moment she told me she loved me with a blank stare. Every time she dismissed my questions with a kiss I didn't ask for. Every lie wrapped in a smile. The water upstairs stopped. I had maybe a minute. I locked the phone again, placed it exactly where it had buzzed, and stood at the sink pretending to rinse a dish. She came down wrapped in a towel, completely unaware of what I had just seen. Or maybe not unaware. Maybe she knew and didn't care. And me? I stood there playing dumb, just like she planned. I didn't sleep that night. Not a minute. I lay beside her, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing, wondering how someone could rest so easily with that much deception curled beneath their ribs. Her phone rested inches from my side, silent now, like it knew I'd already seen too much. By morning, my chest ached from holding everything in. I kept pacing, circling the house like a ghost, trying to decide how to bring it up. But nothing I rehearsed in my head sounded right. Every version made me sound either paranoid or weak. So I waited until she came downstairs, dressed, humming, scrolling, like nothing was fractured. I sat at the table, hands folded, trying not to shake. We need to talk, I said quietly. She didn't look up. We always need to talk. Can it wait? No, I said, and this time I meant it. Her eyes finally met mine. Calm, controlled, not a flicker of panic. Okay, so talk. I hesitated. Then I said it. I saw the messages, Callie. I know about you and Clay. Her expression didn't crack. Not even a flinch. She put her phone down, leaned on the table with both hands and said, "Good. I was wondering when you'd finally grow a spine." The words hit harder than I expected. Not denial, not excuses, just pure, calculated coldness. She kept going. "Do you think I was trying to hide it, Lowell? Do you really believe I forgot to lock my phone by accident? You were supposed to see it." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Why?" She shrugged like she was bored. "Because I was tired of living in this dead marriage. You stopped being a partner a long time ago. I just stopped pretending to care." I tried to respond, but my mouth wouldn't cooperate. She tilted her head like I was a child who didn't understand how the world worked. "What did you expect? That I'd wait for you to notice me again? You haven't seen me in years, Lowell. I just made sure you felt the same." There it was. She'd flipped the narrative, made it about my neglect, my distance, my silence. And maybe some of it was true, but not like this, not with him, not by design. "You didn't have to lie," I said finally, my voice barely a whisper. She smiled, the cruel kind that doesn't reach the eyes. "I didn't lie. I just stopped telling you things you didn't want to hear." And with that, she picked up her keys and left the house like it wasn't burning behind her. She didn't come home that night. I didn't ask where she went. Something had shifted in me, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like begging someone to love me back. I sat at the kitchen table, not as a victim, not as a fool, but as a man finally facing the truth. And the truth wasn't just that she cheated. The truth was that I had disappeared long before she replaced me. The next morning, I packed a single bag. I didn't rage, I didn't throw things, I didn't write a dramatic note. I just picked up my keys and walked through the house one last time. A house full of furniture we picked together. Walls that once echoed with laughter and now just felt cold. I left my wedding ring in the silver dish by the sink. The one she always used to drop her earrings into. I didn't need to explain myself. She had already heard everything I never said in the silence I left behind. I moved in with a college friend for a few months. Got my own place eventually. A tiny apartment that didn't have much, but everything in it was mine. No pretending. No walking on eggshells. No more dimming my feelings so someone else could shine brighter. Funny thing is, the day I signed the lease, I got a message from her. Just 3 words again. "Are you okay?" I didn't answer. Not because I hated her, but because I finally loved myself enough not to look back. It took losing everything I thought I needed to realize I had already survived the worst part. Being invisible in my own life. I see myself clearly now, and that's worth more than anything she took with her. Thank you for following this journey. You're watching Reddit Confessions, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which moment hit you the hardest in this story, and why? Was it the party? The text? The confrontation? Let us know below, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful true stories like this.